Hello and welcome to Kingston Now. I'm Jimmy Buff. This week we're at Rnf Handmade Paints in Midtown Kingston. Rnf has been making quality paints for artists for 24 years and has a national and international reputation for its quality. In addition, Rnf offers workshop for painters and has a gallery that displays the work of some amazing artists. Joining us now are co-owner Richard Frumess and general manager Darin Seim. Hi guys.
Hi.
What are the origins of Rnf? We'll start with you, Richard.
Rnf began in 1988 in January.
Yeah, just a couple days. We're just a couple days past your 24th anniversary.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And in Brooklyn, in a very tiny space in a basement of a house. And 2 years later, I moved up here to the Ulster County area and set up a shop in a slightly larger space. It was about 500 square feet. And that's when my partner Jim Haskin joined me, and we were in West Park for about 5 years, and in one of the old livestock buildings from one of the Hudson River estates. And then we moved to Kingston in 1995 to the Millard building on Broadway. We had ultimately about 7,000 square feet, and then in 2005, we bought this building, which is an 1890s factory building built originally by Standard Oil, and we have a lot more space.
What was the impetus for the start? Were you an artist yourself, trying to make quality paint for you to use? What was the beginnings?
Actually, I had been a painter working in encaustic, which was encaustic paint was not very well known at that time, back in the early 1980s. And it turned out that the art store I shopped at, a very tiny fine art store that went back to 1929, was the only place in the world that had encaustic paint. And they had started making it in the 40s. And when I came there and then started working there, they had not made it for about 20 years. And they decided to start making it again, and I was their, quote, expert. And so they had me start making it very crudely, and then I made it for them until they went out of business in 1987.
Encaustic painting and encaustic paint is very specific. Can you describe what that is?
Encaustic paint is made with beeswax and a little resin. Its history goes back to ancient Greece. It was a paint that was used in the famous Fayum funeral portraits. In about the 6th, 7th, 8th century, it suddenly went into a decline and wasn't really revived fully until about the 20th century. What we're seeing now in the 20th century is a renaissance of an ancient painting medium being used side by side with contemporary artist materials.
Darin, what is a handmade paint?
Well, I think the name handmade paint is we call it handmade paint because we try to express the amount of labor, hand labor that goes into it. We do use equipment, which you'll see, because you really need modern equipment to make something that the modern artist expects, the level of quality. But there's a huge amount of hand labor that goes into it because we put a lot of care into the consistency of our colors and the way we match them and the way they're handled. And still has to be, we make them in small batches. They're very carefully controlled. So we still have to hand wrap them, hand package. So there's a lot of love. The handmade, I think, is an expression of the labor of love that goes into it.
In addition to encaustic paints, you also do pigment sticks, which is for traditional oil painting?
Yeah, pigment stick is our name for what is generically called an oil stick. It's essentially oil paint. We make a high quality oil paint, and we add a little bit of natural wax in the end and put it into a mold, and you end up with basically a really high quality crayon, if you will, but when you apply it to your surface, it becomes a nice buttery oil paint that's completely compatible with any oil paint that an artist is already familiar with.
So tell me about the Customers of Rnf. You ship to companies who sell paint, as well as you have premises here where people can come buy the sticks as well as encaustic paint.
Right, yeah, both kinds of paint that we make have become more and more popular, especially over the last several years, and so now we're in retail locations all around the U.S. and around the world. But we also we sell here locally. We have a small store and a website, but it's spreading.
I was asking Darin Richard about how many colors you have in Pigment Sticks, and he was going to add up. I don't know if you got to the number yet. He said we'll probably discuss it on camera.
Sometimes we forget how many colors we have. We just added 5 new colors. So in the encaustic, we're up to 84 colors, and in Pigment Stick, I believe we're at
91 or 2.
92.
What makes a good color? Why 94? Are there that many variations in shade and color?
When you are working with an artist paint, the different pigments all have incredibly different characteristics. They have different luminosities, they have different transparencies, much different than anything you're familiar with a house paint, where basically you're just making a flat, uniform decoration. With artist paint, you want nuances, you want variety, you want, in many cases, messiness. You want an ability to express ideas and emotions, all of which are not as well done with a house paint, anywhere near. So that's why.
Terrific. Well, let's talk about the gallery. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the gallery. We'll talk a little bit about your business here in Kingston and the business of Rnf as it relates to the city. You're watching Kingston Now. More from Rnf Handmade Paints when we return. Welcome back to Kingston Now. This week we're at Rnf Handmade Paints in Kingston, and with us is co-owners Richard Frumess and Jim Haskin. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Jim, welcome to the show. I want to talk about the gallery because you have a really nice gallery here, and I understand it was you who started it. Tell me about that.
Right. Many years ago, when we were in the Millard building, like Richard was saying, you know, we had all these people working with encaustics and starting our workshop program, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And we had a little bit of hallway space and started putting on shows. You know, we started out saying we'll do a monthly show, and that quickly became every 2 months because running a gallery is a lot more work than a lot of people think. So at that point, we started drawing from all the people we knew locally, but also since we have customers all over the country, we were able to bring in artists from all over the country to show. And it's just expanded. It's grown into, we have a biannual show every year. It's been at several colleges in the area. We're going to be producing a book this year of our biannual show. So it's just continued to grow and draw people from the area and from all over the country.
Is there now, for lack of a better word, competition for your work to be shown in the gallery? Or do you get that many people who want to show? Or are you ever up against deciding, well, they're both, we'll have to go with this one?
Oh yeah, we you know, only put out, what is it, 5, 6 shows a year, and we have people that do send us submissions all the time. We also have an Artist of the Month online, so a lot of the people there will at least get an online presence if they don't actually get a show in our gallery. So we do get to promote people that use our products and wax paints in general quite a bit.
You have workshops here as well, which is, I thought, a great marketing idea, and I don't mean that cynically, because if you teach people how to use particularly encaustic paints, then you've created a customer. What is involved in the workshops and who teaches them?
You want to start and I'll jump in?
All right. Well, the workshops we started precisely because so few people really knew how to work in encaustic. We weren't just making a product, we were also building a market for it. Encaustic's reputation and allure as this incredibly versatile and opulent medium, got many people interested, but it wasn't, and still in many cases isn't being taught in the schools. So our workshop program was very important. We started in 1995, originally teaching at Women's Studio Workshop. Then we set up our own in our premises in '96. And in 1999, we got requests to set up regional workshops. So we started teaching in San Francisco, later on in Chicago, regularly, Texas, Atlanta, New York City. I'm probably forgetting a place, and many of our students turned around and started teaching their own classes with our support. And so there's been a huge growth of encaustic education that's taken place nationally, and then a lot of these people have coalesced into networks and hold conferences annually, and so it's become, a real hotbed of artistic activity.
Well, I'm glad you said hotbed, because for people who don't know, it's not just about the paint. Can you describe the process, Jim, of encaustic painting?
Oh, I guess we haven't really told you the details of it. Encaustic painting is wax painting. So you have to use the paint when it's warm. So it does have to be heated up till it's in a molten state. And then it can be applied to a surface. And then it cools immediately so that you can then rework on it, add more layers. Right
Is it
away.
malleable? Can you go back to it once you've laid it
Sure.
down?
You use heat guns or tacking irons, and you can work on the surface also. Remelt it, rescrape, carve, cast, add different materials, layer it, and it will give a very much a depth of surface, because you can build up layers very quickly in one session, so you can bury and obscure things beneath it.
Is the process of learning encaustic very difficult? How long are the workshops?
Well, we do a full range of workshops, from intensive 5-day workshops to we do once a month a Saturday afternoon where it's just an hour of instruction and 3 hours of playing. So we do 2 days, 1-day intensives, 3 days. It's the full range.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, because I was at a listening session that Mayor Shane Gallo had just before he was sworn in. And it was a listening session for businesses in Kingston to come and share their thoughts and ideas. And Richard was there. And, well, you had a really unique perspective. Instead of asking what the city could do for you, you came and sort of suggested that you could help the city. I'm going to roll the tape of one of your questions or one of your statements that night, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
The arts in the city are very important to us. The speaker before me, before you, I mean,
Yes,
had mentioned about the talent that's here, about the arts that are here, which is one of the treasures of the area. Ulster County is supposedly the second most, has the second highest concentration of artists per capita in the state, second to New York City. The city, this was a football that the city could have done something with, run to a goal line. Mm-hmm. I think it saw it as an egg and said, we'll sit on it. Mm-hmm. And nothing ever hatched out of that.
I'm glad I wasn't the one sitting on it. Because it's obviously hatched this evening where basically, okay, it's time to move it forward, yeah. Right?
It was an interesting suggestion that because of your national reputation and the people you draw to Kingston, to say to the mayor, listen, we have this great arts community and we do this, and we actually manufacture in Kingston, which many people don't think happens anymore. Use us to attract people here. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? How would you like to see the mayor do that?
Well, here's the thing. To recognize what resources you have in the city that could attract other businesses, other artists. Ulster County has got the second largest concentration of artists in the state, next after New York City. It was called by Business Week Online one of the 10 best cities. Kingston was 10 best cities for artists in the country. And what do we have here? Well, you have our company here on Tenbrook Avenue, and right across the railroad tracks is Bailey's Ceramics, another nationally known artist materials manufacturer. That's a very unique thing. You also have just a half a block away a very large brick building, the Shirt Factory, that's being used for artist studios. You have a lot of empty reusable red brick factory buildings that are perfect for artists. You have UPAC on Broadway, which is key to the revival of Midtown. Only a few blocks away. You have this concentration of possibilities that could be used to help build up the area and to attract the again, businesses, crafts businesses, small businesses to come in.
We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to get a tour of your facility. This is Kingston Now. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Kingston Now. With me again is General Manager of Rnf Handmade Paints, Darin Seim, and Darin's going to take us through a walking tour of what they call production, where the paint is actually made. Darin, so where are we at in the room right now?
Well, this is what we call production. This is where, as we talked about earlier, we make the paint, and you'll see some of the equipment here that we use, but you also see a lot of people working and a lot of hands-on activity. On this side is where we make primarily the pigment sticks, which are, again, the oil-based sticks. This is a larger version of one. You can see it's oil paint, but it activates like a crayon. It's soft, it's smooth, it's buttery. If you apply pressure to it, it just turns into a nice, juicy
And you don't
oil
need a
paint.
brush at all?
You don't need a brush. You can use a brush. Anything you do with oil paint, you can do with these, but you also have the freedom of the continuous stroke and the immediacy of being able to paint directly on the canvas or panel, whatever.
Terrific. We head over here. There's some really interesting looking apparatus.
This is, we have two of these 3-roll mills that, this is a standard paint making equipment and has been for a long time in the world. And this is the side we make mostly encaustic paint. So everything here has to be heated. The beeswax you have to be able to maintain the flow. But this is where we mix and grind or disperse the colors and make sure everything is exactly how we want it.
And over here, this looks like you could cook bread or bake bread in it.
Yeah, we have several of these industrial ovens that we use to keep everything at the temperature that we want. They're all set at different temperatures, different times. It really is kind of a dance, of heating and cooling all day long. Heating, cooling, and cleaning.
Terrific.
Is really what it's about.
Now, I see in front of us, we're going to get to in just a moment, is someone pressing, it looks like, blocks of color in paint.
This is what we sort of call post-production, where once all the paint is all made, it needs to be labeled, it needs to be wrapped, packaged into sets. Everything has to have a certain amount of information on it for health and safety and just information the artist would want about their material.
So Darin, this is the gallery space. It's a nice room. There's a show here that is still on the walls that had just closed featuring local artists and Supernaut. What's coming in next?
Coming in next is a group show with painters and writers combined, and it's going to have people from around the country as well as some local artists.
And this gallery is open to the public as during
It's
business
open
hours?
Monday through Friday, and we have Saturday hours from 10 to 5 as well.
And there are artist openings here as well?
Yes, there are. We run shows every other month with an opening on Saturday night of the beginning of the show, 5 to 7.
And Richard wanted me to point out that you also do poetry readings in this room.
We do poetry readings as well. It's called the Cadmium Text Series. And that happens in this room. We have a pretty good following for that.
I think it's every third Saturday?
Every third Saturday.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And you actually have a store here as well, Darin, with that beautiful encaustic sign above.
We do.
Tell me about some of the products you carry.
Well, obviously we carry all of our paints that we manufacture. These are the encaustic paints and the pigment sticks in several sizes. In addition to that, we have some supports for painting on. We have brushes, we have some oil paints.
And the iron, I see that's necessary.
Right, we have the heating equipment. We try to have everything that's necessary for the paints that we make, as well as some extras for there's a pretty good population of traditional oil painters in the area, so we try to support them as well. And as well as some books, DVDs, you name it, whatever fits.
Great. One more thing we want to take a look at is the workshop room. Can we head that way next?
Absolutely.
So Darin, this is the room where the workshops take place.
Correct. When we moved to this building, we were very happy to have the opportunity to build a workshop room to bring people in from all around the country and beyond. We do classes around the year, up to 12 people generally per class. We do 1-day, 3-day, 5-day classes, very intensive, specialized. And as you can see, there's just several workstations around. We put a lot of money into the ventilation, and around the walls, you see a lot of different samples of encaustic and oil stick and mixed media work, all kinds of things that have been
made in this room during workshops.
Absolutely.
Terrific.
Yeah.
That's it for this week's show. Our thanks to Richard Frumess, Darin Seim, Jim Haskin, and the staff of Rnf Handmade Paints. To learn more about the work done, the products, the workshops, or the gallery, go to rfpaints.com or find them on Facebook. Kingston Now is also available online on our Facebook page, where you can make suggestions for future shows, and you can find a link to watch archive shows. For Kingston Now, I'm Jimmy Buff. I'll see you next time.